Hello and welcome to another edition of the MMK Show. Today we're going to be talking about the differences between sourcing in Vietnam and India. Now, of course, we have been talking about sourcing in India for over 5 years now, or almost 5 years. We started in 2019, and we've recently started sourcing in Vietnam as well. But we've never really talked about or we've never really compared India and Vietnam on one live stream. So this is it. Today we're going to be doing that. We're going to be talking about why you should source from India and Vietnam. What are the differences? What are the similarities? What types of products you can source in each countries? And we're also going to be sharing more information about our Vietnam sourcing trip that is coming up very, very soon. Marg and Kevin, how are you guys doing today?
Very well, thanks, Megla. I'm getting very excited and starting to pack for Vietnam. It's not far away. We'll be here before we know it.
Yes,
I've been really
absolutely.
busy. We've had so many inquiries for
Oh,
our new done for use sourcing service, not only in India but also in Vietnam, and so that's kept us really busy over the last month or so. It seems to get busier and busier, and with sort of expanding the team. And the other thing is, a lot of people are now saying that with China and the uncertainty with whether Mr. Trump gets in or Mr. Trump doesn't get in, a lot of people are sort of treading. It seems like people are treading on eggshells over if they're sourcing from China. So they need to look at other markets to hedge your safe bets. And Megla, you were in Vegas last week talking about hedging a good bet.
yeah, absolutely. And I spoke to so many people over there, buyers, importers, Amazon sellers, and a lot of the large companies are actually trying to diversify and they are trying to look for alternatives. And those are the types of inquiries we're getting, more and more in recent days. So there's this big company that supplies to restaurants, disposable products to restaurants, and they do millions of dollars in imports from China. And so they want to look at India and Vietnam. Then we've got so many packaging suppliers and bags and like the list goes on and on, ribbons. So yeah, I think what's really happening is that there was this just I feel everybody is preparing for sort of the uncertainty. And even people who don't like Trump sort of grudgingly said that yes, he might come in power. So they are preparing for that for sure. And yeah, I mean, we'll have to expand our team. In fact, I was just talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and she said, "You're going to be so busy in the next 6 months, you won't have time to breathe." I mean, she's in the U.S., and so she sort of knows what's going on. And I was like, "Yeah, bring it
Megla,
on. We're ready."
Megla, Megla, I'm already busy, Megla. I'm already
Yeah,
busy.
get ready, Kevin.
Okay.
Okay, so guys, where are you joining in from and who's online? Come on, say a hi to us. I see there are a few people online on all of the different channels. So drop in a hi. Let us know where you are joining us from and who you are. And today we have got slides. So we don't have a guest joining us today, but we have slides. And oh, Roz is here. Nice to see you, Roz. Long
Hello, Ron.
time. How are you?
Hope you well.
Cool. So, yeah, we've got slides today for a change for MMK Show. So, here are the topics that we're going to be covering: why source from India and Vietnam, pros and cons, products to source, some sourcing tips, and how we can help. Okay, so first of all, why should you consider sourcing from India and Vietnam now? Like, why is it the right time now? Oh, Daisy's here. Hi, Daisy. How are you? Good to see you. I still have to reply to your message, Daisy. I haven't forgotten. Okay, so all of you already know this, but just to reiterate, of course, there's no trade tariff. There's better geopolitical relations with the West. I mean, both India and Vietnam have better relations with the U.S. than China. And of course, it's really important not to put all your eggs in one basket. And we've been saying this for a long time, but now more than ever, it is very, very true. And I mean, we've seen these headlines. This is something that people in the US are talking about. This is all over the news. And, Trump has said that if he comes to power, which is very likely, he may, or actually he said he will, but, until it's done, but he may impose over 60% tariffs on Chinese imports. So this is something that all the big buyers are really preparing for. This is, when I was in the US, I was talking to so many big companies. This is what they are really concerned about, and they are preparing their plan B, basically. Also, and we have been talking about this too in the past, like rising production costs in China, whereas in India and Vietnam, labor costs are much lower. However, that is not to say that all products in Vietnam and India will be cheaper than China. There are some products that will not be cheaper because China has economies of scale. And for some products, India and Vietnam do not have economies of scale. But if any product is labor intensive, you will find that they can be cheaper in India and Vietnam. In fact, if you look at this chart, which compares all of the labor costs across different countries, I don't know if it's actually visible. Let me see if I can make it full screen. Yeah, probably not very clear still, but yeah. So we have China, um, and labor costs have been increasing in all countries. So we've got China, which is pretty high, then Vietnam, and then India. And Vietnam and India are sort of at par, but India is still slightly lower than Vietnam. This is a case study that was done in 2018 for bags. And there was this global supply chain director at Procon Pacific where he actually got the same bag manufactured in three different countries. And if China was zero, then Vietnam was minus 11% in terms of cost, and India was minus 37%. And most of it was because of the labor cost. So again, if your product is labor intensive, then it can be cheaper in Vietnam and India. This is something that we've also been talking about, and everybody knows if you source a product from China, if it's your own unique product, then it's quite likely that it might get copied very quickly. And of course, there are ways to protect yourself, which you should definitely do, sign an NNN and all of those things. But still, it's very common for products to be copied by Chinese suppliers. And this is also one of the reasons why, people who come to us, one of the reasons they want to get out of China is because of this. Like if they have a unique patented product, they don't want to take it to China. They want to protect their design. And the reason for this is because a lot of the factories in China are actually selling D2C. They're selling directly on Amazon, whereas in Vietnam and India, a lot of factories are still not doing that. Although Amazon is pushing factories in both countries to sell directly, but still there's quite a bit of resistance. And many of the traditional factories still want to focus on exports and do B2B business where there is more profit, instead of selling individually to consumers. Okay, and again, unique products. We are going to be talking about the different products that can be found in India and Vietnam. And of course, many of you have been on our trip, so you know the products that can be found in India. Vietnam also has a lot of unique handmade products that are doing very well with Amazon e-commerce sellers. Okay, so pros and cons. So we've got three slides of pros and cons for India, Vietnam, and China. So this is going to be quite interesting. So India pros, low labor costs. We talked about that. Unique products, low MOQs. I think this is something that a lot of Amazon and e-commerce sellers like about India. There's not only low MOQs, but there's also low MOVs. So you can maybe place an order of, $5,000 or something, and then have a variety of SKUs within that order, which is very advantageous if you're actually just starting out or you have a limited budget. Growing wealthy middle class. In fact, increasingly, I'm seeing more people wanting to sell to the domestic market. When I was in Vegas, there was somebody who attended my talk, and they reached out to me later on, and they had some really beautiful products, and they wanted to sell them to the Indian market, and they gave me samples and everything. So I'm going to see if there's sort of a market over here for those kinds of products. But e-commerce is booming in India. There's a growing wealthy middle class. So if you do have products that you're sourcing in India, there may be an opportunity to actually sell them in the domestic market as well at some point. And of course, there are rules, and you've got to have GST number and a company, but there's always workarounds to that as well. And Amazon India, of course, is again growing very fast, and it's all in English, so there's no language barriers as well. Like if you're selling in Europe, you have to do translations, and selling in the Chinese domestic market is of course very difficult. So India is more accessible. recent government reforms. So, what's really happened in the last 10 years or so is that India's had a very stable government, and a lot of progress has been made on a lot of different fronts. And elections are coming up this year, and we expect Modi to be elected again for another 5 years. So that is good news, actually, because business loves stability. And, with stability, there's also a lot of reforms and a lot of good things that the government is doing. So we're very optimistic about those fronts. Ease of communication. Most of you have communicated with Indian suppliers, and you can talk to them in English and just pick up the phone, and it's easier. There's nothing lost in translation. Better IP protection, eco-friendly products, no long Chinese New Year holidays, and in good relations with the West. The cons: limited product range. This is, of course, a big limitation, but it is changing. It is really changing, and I'm seeing this every day on the ground over here. For example, maybe even up to 2 3 years ago, there weren't that many toy manufacturers in India, but now there are so many toy manufacturers. In fact, if you go to the local markets here, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 90% of the products would be from China. But if you go to the market today, I would say only maybe 40% of the products are from China. So a lot of the toys are being now manufactured in India. That's a very fast growing industry. Not only wooden toys, that's something that India is known for, but also plastic injection, soft toys, like all types of toys are being manufactured. So, and of course, there's electronics, and lots of different categories are growing. And the government is also investing in electronics. So in the next, 3 to 4 years, you'll be seeing a lot of electronics coming up. In fact, there are already a lot of domestic brands for things like Bluetooth speakers and headsets, and all of the small consumer electronics that China is really known for, that Shenzhen is really known for, that are being manufactured in India, and being sold in the domestic market. It's just a matter of time before they are exported and before these suppliers start doing private label for small mid-sized companies. It's coming, but it's coming for sure. Not easy to find suppliers in India. Their websites are not updated. They're really bad at updating websites. There's hardly any social media that they do. So again, the best way to find suppliers is either to go there or to use a sourcing agency. Of course, there are websites, but again, it just gets a bit tricky. It's easier in China. High corporate taxes, infrastructure improvements in process. So infrastructure is not as good as it is in China, but it's quite good. There are new highways that are being constructed. The ports are being updated or upgraded. So infrastructure improvements are in process. Lack of automation in some of the factories. And I mean, this is a pro and sort of a con as well, because a lot of the products are handmade. And so that is actually, an advantage, because a lot of buyers actually like handmade products, and that's what really sells, that all these products are really handmade, and you can actually charge a premium price for that. But of course, then with that comes the fact that delivery lead times are longer because it's a handmade product. Sometimes Indian suppliers overpromise and underdeliver, and those of you who have sourced from India, you guys know that sometimes suppliers are very ambitious, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we can finish this order within 4 weeks, 5 weeks," and then there are delays that happen. So, but I find that that's also changing. Like, we've been sourcing from so many suppliers recently, and they are, some of them are very, very proactive. They work weekends. There was this one product that we were doing, and the buyer really needed it very urgently, like for the summer. And so we were working with the suppliers, with the supplier, and he, made sure that workers did overtime, and he opened the factory in the weekend, and we got the samples done within like 2 days. Over the weekend, we got samples done. So it was pretty good. The buyer was happy. Jeffrey says, that's one of the best things for me about India, the low MOQs. That's very important for someone just starting out. Yes, exactly. Agree 100%. Okay, let's talk about Vietnam pros and cons. So again, Vietnam pros: low labor costs. That is a very big advantage for Vietnam. Also, the fact that the labor over there is quite productive, and the government is actually investing in upskilling of labor. There's a lot of skills labor. Big brands have set up factories in Vietnam, and this is actually having a trickle effect. So there's like Nike and Samsung, and all of these big companies that have set up factories for shoes, footwear, bags, And all of that is helping improve the supply chains overall. And there are increasingly more small and mid-sized factories that are coming up, like the local companies are setting up factories because there is a trickle effect, and the know-how, the knowledge is being transferred from these big companies to smaller factories. So overall, the industry is growing because these big brands have set up factories in Vietnam. Low corporate taxes, FDI inflow, especially China. So a lot of Chinese companies are investing in Vietnam. They have set up factories there. And in fact, Chinese companies are also now investing in Thailand, because of this whole situation with Trump and the US elections and everything. So even Chinese companies are preparing for that. They're setting up factories in different countries to be able to circumvent the taxes if they are imposed. So that's pretty important to note. And then there are FTAs with many countries. So Vietnam has a lot of free trade agreements with Europe, with the US. And so if you are importing into any of these countries, there are literally no, trade tariff, no import duties into many of the countries. And of course, Vietnam has good relations with the West, which really helps long term strategically. What are the cons of Vietnam? Limited product range. So again, there are certain categories that Vietnam really specializes in, but not all categories are available in Vietnam overall. Not easy to find suppliers. Again, just as it is not easy to find suppliers um, in India, Vietnam also gets a bit tricky because there are a lot of websites, B2B directories where you can actually find suppliers, but again, you're not really sure if they're a real factory or if they're just a trading company, or if they're actually exported. Sometimes the websites are not in English, so it does get a bit tricky to find quality suppliers until you have some boots on the ground, you go visit factories there, you attend a trade show. It does get a bit difficult. Communication can sometimes be an issue, not a major issue, um, but still, they're not as fluent in English as some other countries, and so sometimes if you do visit there, you might need a translator, or if you are talking to somebody at a factory, it might take some time to sort of understand what they're saying, or maybe even use a translator. But most export focused companies will have salespeople that speak in English. High interest rate, high inflation rates, materials need to be imported from China. So, but increasingly, Vietnam is setting up factories for a lot of the different materials. But things like some specialty fabrics, or like polyester fabrics for backpacks, or certain fabrics for apparel do need to be imported from China. And so that adds to the delivery lead time. But also because of the proximity to China, it doesn't add too much of a time in terms of, and a lot of the fabrics and all are actually stored in are purchased, and you can find them in wholesale markets in Vietnam as well. So that is an option. But if there's something customized, and if you want customized prints or a specific type of fabric, then in many cases you might have to, either the supplier does that for you, or you can do that as well. You can find a supplier in China, get the materials done there, and then get them imported into Vietnam, or the supplier can do that for you. Even things like, zippers and some accessories for garments, bags, etc., sometimes are imported from China. Okay, China pros and cons. So, of course, the biggest pro of China is that it is a manufacturing powerhouse. And in China, they say it's not a matter of if you can source a product; it's a matter of how much would it cost. So, because China makes literally anything and everything under the sun, which is why it is, it's been sort of the manufacturing factory of the world. Established supply chain. We all know that for all of these products, China has extremely well established supply chains, and their production hubs that really specialize in different types of products. And there are raw materials, components, service providers, everything is available in those production hubs. So that is one of the biggest advantages, of course, of China. Skilled labor, like over the years, China has developed a really good system in terms of manufacturing. There's efficiency in all of the factories, like they work very professionally. They're also very conscious of that delivery times, for example. So in most cases, they say that a product will be delivered at so and so date. It is usually delivered unless there are, certain delays and all. Develop infrastructure, of course, everybody knows that. And then availability of materials and components, and established electronics sector. So electronics is one sector that no other country has really even come close to where China is right now. And it might take some time for that to happen. I feel that India could be the next electronics production hub. I don't see Vietnam developing, too fast. I mean, a lot of the if a lot of the Chinese electronics companies start investing into Vietnam, then it will develop faster. But as of now, I see India developing faster for electronics as an alternative to China. Other than that, I mean, there's Thailand. There's some electronics companies in Thailand. Of course, Taiwan is there too, but Taiwan tends to be more expensive, and it's more premium, more high end kind of products. So for like daily use consumer electronics products, I feel India is going to be the next production hub. Okay, what are the cons? Rising labor and production costs. We've already talked about that. Ongoing regional disputes, ongoing international trade tensions, and these are the biggest worries that people have overall. And this is one of the main reasons why people need to have a plan B. Lack of IP protection, Western consumer resentment. And this is not very widespread as such, because like when I talk to, buyers and all, they say that yes, some consumers do care about where the product is made, but by and large, all consumers care about is a price. And they're like, if it's a good price, they'll buy it regardless of where it's made. But there are increasingly more consumers that are more conscious about where the product is made, and they're specifically asking for like non-Chinese products. But of course, it's not that widespread as of now. Questions around ethical sourcing, and this sometimes does happen. And we saw this whole situation with the Xinjiang cotton that was being sourced over there. And whether or not it is accurate, nobody knows. But the fact is that it was in the news, and then it really affects business because consumers hear about it, and then consumers don't want to buy products that are sourced from those regions. So that's how it affects businesses as such. Okay, any questions so far from anyone? Okay, if you do have any questions, type them in the comments and we will have time for Q&A. And so now we're going to be talking about the products that can be sourced in both countries. And for this, Mark, over to you. And Mark, are you able to control the slides? Do you see those arrows on your screen? If yes, then you can control the slides.
Oh, yes, I
You
can.
should be able to.
I can, yeah, I can.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no drama.
Okay, go ahead and control the slides. All right.
Fantastic. So yeah, look, India has, I think, some amazing products and very different style of products. So you can get home decor and gifts made out of metal, wood, ceramic, jute, cotton, glass, and marble. And they marble, and they do a lot of mixed media products where you might get a wooden board with marble and it might then have metal handles and things. So I think that is something that is very unique, and you can make something you see even more unique by changing something on the product that you've seen at the fair or something to a mixed media product. Kitchen and tableware, there are so many things from cutlery to anything you can think of, I think, for the kitchen. Furniture, large furniture, there is a lot of flat pack furniture made in India these days. So that is something, little side tables that is still doable for Amazon and things like that. Obviously, there's some beautiful big pieces that we've seen at the last fair, and they were amazing, but I mean, they're probably not good for Amazon. There's a lot of cushion covers, rugs, embroidery, and they're all done in so many different ways. You can have, embellishments on cushions. You can have them, screen printed, all sorts of different styles of cushions and rugs. Pet products, unlimited. There's dog bowls, dog beds, dog toys, leashes, carry bags, everything for pets. And a lot of eco-friendly products. A lot of people now wanting like different types instead of plastic takeaway containers and things. You can get what we call PET products, which aren't pet products, but they're actual products that are made, and it can be mats, it can be bags. Lots of things are made out of this material. It's manufactured from all the recycled plastic bottles, and so with the coloured lids. So you get this thread that comes out of that, and then it's made into a lot of products. And that's something very unique if you're doing a product like that, if you want to have that sort of very eco-friendly look. And a lot of those factories that have gone down this path actually have solar panels or water recycling, things like that. So they're very, very eco-friendly factories. Fashion jewelry, there is so many beautiful pieces of jewelry. I wish you could buy them at the fair. I'd probably bring back a suitcase because there's so many lovely pieces, and nice handbags and some footwear as well. There is a lot of footwear, but we don't see much of it, like as in leather shoes and things at the trade fair, but there are some fantastic shoe manufacturers that we have put people in contact with for sports shoes and other type of normal run-of-the-mill type of shoes. Textiles and apparel, well, obviously India is huge on making textiles, and there are so many factories that do anything from T-shirts to beautiful saris to high-end gear. Lots of options. Organic cotton, it is one of the biggest manufacturers of organic cotton in the world. So if you want to move into the organic field and do anything out of that, plenty of that. Leather, now you can do clothing, bags, wallets, pet products, equestrian products, anything you can think of made out of leather. And superfoods, coffee, tea, spices. So there's a lot of options. And I think there's probably some products we've forgotten, but that's the major products that we can get out of India. Okay, and this is just a few photos of the different things. So we've got up here some glass, actually bathroom things with like metal lids, some serving bowls, some really different candle holders, some more marble type candle hold products, some ceramic products, and I think this is a mixture of vases. And so they're all very different and very unique. And you can sort of start off with something like this that you see and maybe develop it into something different if you like the look or you like that style. So there's lots of options to move on those. Kitchen and dining ware. So you've obviously got mango wood, and that's one of the popular woods in India. It's unique to India, and it's very eco-friendly because it's from a mango tree after it's finished bearing its fruit. So you're not going to be killing a lot of trees for that. It's wasted wood at the end, and it is really pretty, and it's very light if you want to have goods made into that. We've got here the boards. What's the word for that? I can't think of resin. Type boards here, and you can do them in chopping boards, lots of different things, and that's a thing that is often mixed media. You might have a board with wood on each side and that in the middle or something like that. So this one here, we've actually got wood with marble on each side, and that's actually acacia wood in that picture there, and that's one of the other woods that is used a lot in India. And then we've got a little piece here, and that looks like a jade, but it might be the resin. I'm not sure whether that's jade or resin in there, but that's really a different unique
I think it's
piece.
resin, yeah.
Resin, yeah, it's a bit hard to sort of see, yeah. And then obviously you've got ceramics and different products made out of ceramics in there as well. Okay, then we've got leather. So we've got things like gorgeous different tote bags. You can do journals, horse, equestrian things, little leashes and bridles for, or I don't know, leads, I suppose you call that for a dog, and leather boots. And there's obviously a lot of clothing. You can get jackets and skirts and all other things as well, and also just like wallets for men and women.
And you can horse saddles, Marg?
Yeah, you can even get horse saddles if you want to do horse saddles. Yes, they do. They do Western and European saddles as well. Yep. In furniture, there is so much to choose from. Obviously, you want to choose smaller pieces. Once again, here's that same look. There's the resin with the wood on each side for the coffee table. Now, I'm imagining that coffee table is flat packed, and those legs will come off that. So that's something good. That chair, I know, can be flat packed. I've actually sat in one of those, and they're fantastic. And so that's something else you can do. Then we've got things like the little side tables. We've got cloth chairs. So there is just so much, different materials that you can use for your furnishings. Jewelry, once again, where do we stop? We've got silver, we've got dress jewelry, we've got stones. There is lots and lots of choices in jewelry, and Jaipur is, I suppose, a specialist place for those. We've actually visited quite a few factories in Jaipur when we've been there. And shoes, and here's some of the great sports shoes that you can get made in India, or just, I suppose, they might even be work shoes, or they might be just casual shoes. I'm not sure with those. And they're garments, so you can have lovely cotton garments, you can have lots of scarves, more embroidered type things, or the more high-end satin type look products there. So plus you can have silk, you can have organic cotton, or you can go into wool. And obviously the pashminas from the north are very popular. That's a very different look and really nice. Pet products, you can have wooden bowls, metal bowls with wooden holders. You can have metal, all different types of designs of pet bowls are done. A lot of bedding. This company does a huge range of all different types of dog beddings and toys and things. That's a cute little dog house. Need to be bigger for my dog. I can't imagine him wanting to live in there, but it's rather cute. And then you can have more like metal with different designs on them. So there's so many things that you can have made for pets, and some of those I think are actually pet urns on the right hand side as well as the bowls. So that's another field that you can go into, pet urns. I'm sure that's a big market at the moment, as well as human urns. Eco-friendly products. Now there you can have that's the handbag on the right there, that's made out of cork. You can have that's rattan there in that chair. And these are actually bottle holders made out of a mixture of the different corks. We can also get things like cactus leather, banana fibres, and they're all made into handbags, wallets, and things like that. So there is so much eco-friendly products, and then you can do anything in the clothing line as well. So there's a lot of options and a lot of spun eco-friendly materials into mats, bathroom accessories, and all sorts of things. You just have to ask for the eco-friendly manufacturers for those. And this is some of the furnishings you can get. I love this chair. I could see that in the bedroom somewhere in a corner, sitting there with a book. That looks fantastic. And cushion covers. The world is your oyster. It's like when you get up to the second floor at the Delhi Fair, there are so many cushion covers. You're just spoiled for choice, and there's different ones. These are, I suppose, more contemporary, but you can go into more of the embellished type, the really sort of beaded and different styles of cushions. So there's a lot of options, and also bedding. There's a lot of sheets, cottons, towels, anything in that line. And these are just some of the fabrics we've got here. So we've got like the really nice satin finish. We've got some what's that? Is that a? I think that's a
Block printed.
but what around the edge? What is that, block printing, do you think, is on the edge of that or not?
Yeah, it's probably just printed
Fine.
around the edges, and then
that's something that's really unique if you wanted to do a bit of mixed different types of views there. And you can see here there's just so many different products there in fabric ranges to choose from. And once again, it could be for bathroom, kitchen, curtains, wherever. Now, this is a map of India, and these are all the places where different products come from. I won't go into that because there's a lot of cities on there, but if you have a look at this later, you can see like where the silk comes from here, the pashminas come from the north. So each, and some of these have, like you can see there's the one with the embellishments, and that's where a lot of the really, I suppose more, I would call it almost traditional Indian look products come from, but so much. There's silk comes from here, so there's a lot of different the regions sort of make all the different products. So it's not one. You would choose your product and then it would come from a region. And here we go.
Yeah, Mark, some of those regions have been making the same kind of products for hundreds of years, or from where the metal, like Moradabad have been doing it for hundreds and hundreds of years. Metal like the stone from Agra, there's certain regions that just leather, in Kanpur and those places have been doing it for a long, long time.
Yes,
and glass, of course, Kevin. You visited some glass factories in Firozabad.
Yeah, let's not forget Firozabad. I mean, there's factory after factory of families, making glass, blowing glass. It's a huge business in Firozabad.
Yeah, so this map here just shows you. So Delhi is up here where I've got my mouse now around the centre. So you've got Moradabad. Now that's if you want anything made out of metal, it will more than likely come from Moradabad. It's a huge production hub. We visited that, and they also do wooden home products from there. And we're just talking about Farizabad. That's just down on the map here, just down there. We've got Agra, which does marble. Furnishings comes from down here in leather. You've got bags over here from leather from Kolkata. Chennai does leather. And then as you get down the bottom, you get your silk and your coffee. So like each sort of, I suppose, area has different types of products, and they make them in, like, it's a city. If you were doing a particular product, you would probably, it'd be advantageous to go to that city and have a look. It's quite interesting how many.
Well, at the top there, Mark, you've got Ludhiana that specialise in wool products. Maybe they have sheep there, didn't you, Megla?
Have sheep in the
paddock. Yeah, not in Ludhiana, but yeah, up in the mountains, close to Ludhiana, they have a lot of sheep there.
Sheep roaming around the streets, and of course,
instead of cows.
And of course, Panipat. There's a lot of home finishing places, and some of our attendees have visited Panipat too, haven't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, Vietnam products. You've got textiles and clothing, sportswear and activewear, and you see a lot of that when we go to the Global Sources Trade Fair. There is a lot of sports and activewear on display there. Fashion accessories, they make a lot of glasses, sunglasses. Megla and I have both got a pair we had made when we were in Vietnam last year. They do scarves, belts, hats, a lot of really different, and they don't look like the same products that come from India. They've got a completely different look. I actually bought some scarves from Vietnam, and they're totally different from the scarves that I've bought from India in the past. They're really big on footwear. As Megla said before, like you've got Nike and those big companies making their footwear in Vietnam. So there's a lot of smaller factories that are sort of coming spin-offs, I suppose, because the bigger factories are there, and they are starting to make a lot of footwear. Bags and backpacks, that is really, really big in Vietnam. We actually visit a bag factory, and I can tell you guys that it's where Ben Leonard's having his product manufactured, and we've actually seen that, and we're going back to his factory to see it again in production this year. But yeah, so if you want anything in the way of bags, suitcases, anything like that, and made out of any material like leather, polyester type things, canvasy bags, there's so many to choose from there. A lot of furniture, they also do huge pieces of beautiful furniture, and so stunning and different. Probably not ideal for what most of us would be wanting, but they also do a lot of flat pack furniture and a lot of like kids tables and chairs and smaller things as well, made out of wood. There's a lot of rattan. I think this is probably the product that you won't find in a lot of other places is the rattan. They do seagrass, hyacinth grass, and they're made into baskets, laundry baskets, handbags, pet beds, pet types of toys and things. You'll find a lot of that, and it's very unique to Vietnam. Once again, lacquerware, that is very, very unique, and some gorgeous pieces from Vietnam. There's marble. We've actually visited Marble Mountain, and there is so many things to choose from at the marble place there. Electronics, now you won't, if you're just looking for like earbuds or something, you're not really going to be able to source them from Vietnam yourself. They're there for the multinationals, for the big guys that are making them, obviously to distribute around the world. So you're not going to find a factory that'll just give you, 200 or 300 pieces of something in electronics at the moment. Plastic products, there's a lot of plastic, whether you want to do just like plastic bowls, dishes, anything in plastic is available, which is something that we find is not as prevalent in Vietnam, in India as in Vietnam. So if you're looking for plastic, Vietnam is probably a much better option. Leather products, once again, they do some really great leather in Vietnam, and in anything you want, once again, the choice is yours. And packaging, they probably do some of the nicest packaging I've ever seen. There were quite a few packaging stalls at the fair, and there was one in particular that I've been back to. It just makes the most amazing different bags, and they actually don't produce the packaging just for you if you're buying the products. A lot of companies actually get their packaging made there and shipped around the world, so it's a bit of a packaging mecca. Okay, so these are some of the, now this is my favourite. I love this little rocking horse, and I just think that is so cute, and that's just made out of rattan. Then you've got these here are cat beds made out of hyacinth grass. You've got scratching posts, a similar thing. We've got baskets down here. We've got some more cane dog beds, and this is like anything and everything here. You've got laundry baskets, you've got little storage baskets, trays, bathroom accessories. So this is just a few of the products that you can get. But I think anything made out of these materials is going to be pretty well unique to Vietnam. It's got its own look, and it's somewhere that I think you would go if you want those products. Lacquerware, once again, this was my favourite. This was on display at the Global Sources Fair, and it's actually a wine rack, and then you lift the lid off, this dome off, which is made out of lacquer, and it's your corkscrew and your bottle stopper sit in it. So that's a really statement piece. Some really nice vases, once again, and trays and things here. You've got tea caddies and vases and things there made out of lacquerware, and you've got this tray, which I think is really different if you want something a little bit different. And there's so many pieces in that lacquerware to choose from. Ceramics. These are absolutely stunning. The factory where a lot of these pieces, the green one up here on the top, these vases and these, was just an amazing factory. And if you're looking for something, if you wanted to venture into Japan, they had a lot of dinnerware for Japan, and it was probably the nicest I think I've seen anywhere. And they do a lot of fine china. They also do a lot of china for hospitality. So if you wanted to venture into supplying hospitality with their dinnerware, this is the place to go. And the guy lets you actually bang 2 white china plates together really hard, and they don't smash, which I thought was, I just couldn't believe it. He's saying, yeah, bang it harder, and I'm going, oh, I'm too scared. And he just went, right. But they're baked to I forget now, some high temperature, and that they're made in particular for the restaurant industry. So it'd be something that, it would be a really good USP if you wanted to sell that, because it's not like going and buying a, normal dinnerware that's going to break, if you drop it like it happens at home. So that's something different again. Now here's the bags and backpacks, and like you can get anything from a normal backpack to a kid's backpack to wheelie cases, leather bags. They're canvas bags, more leather. That looks like a wheelie sort of, I don't know, travel case, I suppose, and more leather handbags. But there are so many different types of bags and backpacks, and a lot of the bigger name bags and that are made there. Like I know on the girls on the trip, I think one of them bought about 12 or 14 Kipling bags, and I've actually got a wheelie bag from Kipling and a handbag and a few other bits and pieces. So, there's lots of good brand names over there that are being made. So there's lots and lots of choices and ideas, and a lot of skilled people to do those. Wooden furniture. I think this is one of the cutest things I've seen. We actually went to this factory, and they make a lot of wooden toys, and they make like little tables and chairs for children and lots of different things. I think this table on the left is beautiful, but obviously it's just to show you what you can get in Vietnam. Not too many people would put that on Amazon. And here you can get some really nice crafted woods with the designs cut out. This is just all sorts of different things in for the kitchen. There was cook boards, there's wine racks, there was storage things, lots and lots of wooden items. You can get some wall decor done in wood, which is something a little bit different. And these are actually, that's a picnic table that rolls up, and you can take it on your picnic and just put your bottle of wine, and it's got a glass holder and a bottle holder on it. I thought that was rather unique too. We've seen that at the factory we were at, and there's just a different wine rack. Clothing and textiles, these are some of the activewear that I was talking about that we've seen at the fair, but they also do actual garments, and a lot of different clothing comes, out of Vietnam. So, and it's quite funny. I now never used to really look at my labels on my clothes, and I now look and see where everything I go to put on, where's that been made? And Vietnam does come up quite a bit onto a lot of my clothing now. It's becoming more and more. And there's some of the footwear you can get. So you can have thongs, you can have, fluffy inside boots, snow boots, runners, anything you want.
Mark, be careful. Be careful how you say thongs, because we do have a multinational audience.
These things here. Okay, and packaging. Now, this is just one example of the amazing packaging they do just in cardboard, and how they make fans and all sorts of things out of that. And there's obviously little perfume bottles and lots of other different things in packaging. there was so much to choose from. There was just amazing amount. And this is some rubber and plastic goods. So you can just get canisters, buckets, storage containers, obviously plastic bags and like little trolleys and things. So there's a lot of different things if you want to go into, obviously pet toys, pet bowls, if you want to have things in plastic as well, or anything for the home. And that's it. Over to you, Megla.
All right, thank you. So we've got one question from Daisy. Are there fumigation requirements for the rattan products? So Daisy, yes, there's certain requirements. However, if the products are treated, then generally there is, no requirement. But if they are raw, if they're not treated, then there are fumigation requirements. So depending on, what product you're doing, how they're treated, you can actually speak to the supplier or the freight forwarder and find out what the specific rules are for those products. But even if they are fumigated, I mean, if your concern is that, they are sort of, will the fumigant linger on, or will the product have a smell or anything like that, that should not happen. Usually they would fumigate the whole container. So yeah, I don't think that should be a concern. But I mean, let me know if you have any specific products in mind, then we can find out the requirements. Okay, so let's talk about some sourcing tips, and these basically apply to both India and Vietnam. And for one country, it may be more than the other. But the most important thing is pick a factory that fits your size, and this is actually valid in China as well, or wherever you source from. But this is like really important, and sometimes people have a bad experience sourcing because they're not choosing the right factory. So if you're a small mid-sized company, you don't want to go to a really big factory because they're not going to be caring about your 200-piece order. They have, orders from Walmart or JC Penney or whoever. They're going to focus on those kinds of products. And I mean, some people think that, oh, this is so rude. I'm a buyer. I'm giving you business. But we have to think of things from the business's perspective, from the supplier's perspective. They have limited resources, so they're going to put in their efforts, where they're going to get the maximum ROI. In fact, a lot of the new Amazon e-commerce sellers, they require a lot of hand holding, which, suppliers also they have to put in a lot of time and effort to do that. So that is also sort of a deterrent. And that's one of the reasons why many suppliers in, India and Vietnam, they prefer to work with well-established buyers. Understand their capability. And this is more important in India, I would say, also in Vietnam, but in India specifically, because a lot of the products can be outsourced, especially when you're doing handmade products. Like suppliers would say that they are doing, for example, metal, wood, and all of these different materials, but actually they specialize in one particular material, and then the other materials are outsourced from other factories, because usually suppliers specialize in specific materials. So we've got to really understand what their capabilities are, what types of products they have exported in the past, what types of buyers they have, what types of equipment they have, the artisans, the skill sets of the artisans, and really try to understand their core capability and source products from suppliers that specialize in the product that you're looking for. Use local resources and boots on the ground. I think this really helps, like either you go visit the factory yourself, build a relationship with the company, or you find like a sourcing agency to find the right suppliers for you, or work with a third party inspection company to visit the factory, do a factory audit, or just do pre-shipment inspections before you're shipping the product out. But it's always useful to have somebody on the ground, so that you're not just you're sure that you're sourcing from an export focused factory. That is really important. Clear and correct specs and requirements. Again, this is of course important regardless of where you source from, but India and Vietnam, I think it's even more important because a lot of the products are not sort of off the shelf. Like in China, you'll find a lot of the products are off the shelf. And so you can just sort of go to Alibaba, choose a product, and then, the specs are already there. And then you just tell the supplier that, okay, I want to make so and so changes. But in India and Vietnam, most of the suppliers do customization. So they expect you to give them very specific guidelines and requirements for your products. Of course, a lot of suppliers do have catalogs and you can choose products from there as well, but still it's best not to leave anything to chance and to give your requirements very, very clearly. Also make sure that all your requirements are in one document and they're not like spread across, WhatsApp and email and phone call and everything. So you can have WhatsApp conversations for faster response, but then make sure all of the formal communication is done via email. Third party introduction and final inspections. So as I was saying that, if you have a bigger order, then you should actually do 2 to 3 inspections. But if you have a small order, then at least one final inspection. And generally the rule of thumb is that your QC should be about 3% of total order value. That's generally what bigger buyers would follow, like 2 to 3%. So based on that, you can sort of determine whether to do, 2 inspections or 3 inspections or just one inspection. Okay, factory audit. So as much as possible, especially when you're sourcing on your own, try to do a factory audit, because we've had cases where people have gone ahead and found suppliers on, Alibaba specifically. I'm quite surprised actually. There are a lot of trading companies on Alibaba that are saying that they are manufacturers in India and, China, of course, that happens all the time. But they source products from a factory, but then they have issues with the company, and then they come to us and they're like, oh yes, I'm sourcing this product, but I'm having so and so issues. And then we dig a little bit deeper and we send somebody to the factory, which is like maybe just a little workshop somewhere. So I mean, in Muradabad and Firozabad and all of these production hubs, there are thousands and thousands of companies over there, and a lot of them may just be like small workshops. So be careful with who you work with, and how you find the suppliers. Pre-production samples in hand. Visit factory if possible. That's really important to develop relationships, whether it's in India or Vietnam. And follow up. I think this is something that really helps, because you want to make sure that your products are delivered on time. And this sometimes happens in India where products are delayed. So it's really important to follow up, and that's something that our that India Sourcing Network does. With our Done For You service, we follow up with the suppliers to make sure that there are no issues.
And Megla, could I just add one thing?
Yeah. Go ahead.
We talked about this many times, but to have a tech pack, if you're making a garment, if you're making a bag, a backpack, anything, and it's to have a tech pack with your specifications, and you take the time to put your specifications into that drawing and do it properly from the start, it will save you months of going backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
And so, a tech pack to me is it's a Bible.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's look at Jeffrey's question. Can you explain the difference between business relationships and attitudes between Vietnam and India? For instance, China seems all about business and they don't really care too much about who you are. They just want to sell. Whereas somewhere like Mexico, they won't even talk to you unless they get to know you first. Yeah, that's a great question, Jeffrey. And I feel that in India, relationships are really, really important. And once you have met the person or met the supplier in person, it just changes the whole dynamic entirely. The next time you call them or you email them, you'll notice that they're faster to respond. They're giving you better terms, better payments, because they know that you're a serious buyer. So I think in India that is really, really important. And once you develop the relationship, then they don't, I mean, of course they are particular about payments and things like that, but they won't necessarily say that, okay, you have to give me 50% advance and only then I'm going to start your production. So once that relationship has developed, you'll find that they'll even do your order without an advance payment, at times, not always, but at times. I mean, it's just the trust that's really important in India, and the trust is built over time by you being a good buyer and by them being a good supplier. Like Marg and Kevin's supplier, for example, they've been sourcing from the same supplier for over 5 years now, or more than that, 6 years actually. Yeah.
2017 we started, would you believe, Megla?
Oh, there we go. My gosh, no, I cannot believe that.
I gave
Where's
you
time going?
October 2017, so the time has gone by quickly.
It has.
Like, a lot of times you hear people say, oh, I should be getting these terms or those terms. To me, I mean, all right, you want good business terms and you want to be able to, sort of I don't suppose screw the supplier down to the floorboards.
True. Yeah.
But you know, here's some remarkable sort of scenarios over the time, and I don't believe you can, you know, like, I mean, you should know how much your goods are going to cost roughly. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? The raw materials that goes into your, now there's only so much meat in the sandwich, and you start reducing the meat in the sandwich, and then not only the sandwich gets thinner, but also the payment terms go longer, and the people, where do they go to get their money? They're sort of using their bank, so they're stretching their resources even more just to give you
Yeah.
more. And to me, what will happen at the end of the day is your product's going to get skingier because the quality is going to go down. They want to make it quicker, they want to make it faster. They have to be able to get a return. So you've got to be reasonable, guys. You know, you know, you sort of, yeah. Everyone wants to, you know, say a $4 or $5 product, you know, so they can go and make 7, 8, whatever times. But be reasonable within that, because you know, think about your supplier. They need to make a little bit of profit. You need to sort
Yeah.
of,
It's
you know,
got to be a win-win for everyone.
got to be a win-win, but to look at it where you're going to go and screw the supplier down to the floorboards for either the terms, the price, someone's going to lose.
No, well, I think your quality and your, like, I
Yeah.
mean, and we know with suppliers now, if we go to them and say, look, you know, you've quoted 10 and they only want to pay 5, well, the only way they can do it is make it like thinner. You know, so the walls of the bowls might be thinner, or, you know, and I think then you're starting to compromise on quality. I mean, they don't give you a price of $10 thinking, oh, here's this. And particularly in India, I have a lot more trust with the Indians people. So if they tell me a price, I tend to think, yeah, well, it's going to be around that. They're not like trying to make a huge profit and think, oh, I've got you. I think they give you a fairly genuine price. And once you start getting it's all right to ask for $1 or something off, but if you start wanting for half price and then you want your terms for 90 days, I'm not going to pay you and all this, it's got to come back reflecting your product somewhere along the way, because they weren't making that much money to start with. So I'd just be careful how much. And to me, I think I would start negotiating maybe on my second product, get my first MOQ through, see that it's selling, and then you can go back and say, now I want to order not 200 pieces, but 2,000 pieces. What can you do for me? And that's where you can start on volume, is to get a better price. Once you start doing some volume. But I think to try and get volume on 200 pieces, to get a good price on 200 pieces is just not, you know, really viable. No. And I think people say to us, oh, I've emailed all the suppliers and nobody replies. What? So if you send an email, I want to get a wooden bowl and it's probably about 8 inches big and I want it for $5 and I only want 100 pieces, are you going to get a reply? I mean, these factories probably get 100 emails a day and they look at your email and just put it to the left. I mean, think about yourselves. If that was your business, would you bother? I mean, if somebody who sends you in a nice spec sheet, maybe an image of something similar that they want, and all the information, and you know, you want, you know, 200 or 300, or you say, I want 200 to start, but I'm going to, my next order is proposed to be 500 or 1,000, you've got a lot more chance of getting in with that manufacturer. So I think people who just email off wildly to people saying, I want, you know, a couple hundred pieces and I don't really know what I want, you're not going to get anybody to waste their time with you. So just, you know, and I think that's why going to the fair and meeting the people in person is so much.
That's Bryson in the background.
Yeah, what's going on? What's Bryson doing?
Woken up and taking a scratch, aren't you? Still a knock at the door.
It's so funny. I thought Kevin was like playing the drums or something suddenly.
Yes, Bryson. Isn't it? Did we wake you up?
Yeah, but look, even if I had a huge order and I'm going to go to my supplier, I mean, okay, you know, things are tight. We all want to make that extra dollar, but you know, I know he's still going to make $1. But at the end of the day, what am I going to do? Cut his throat? You know, like, I mean, you still want to maintain your quality of your products overall, and you know, I mean, the suppliers can only help you so much. You know, it's like, We spoke to so many factories, Megla, haven't we? How they're all, a lot of factories are really struggling with margins, with, just in general because of, it's been a bit of a lean year for some of the factories,
Yeah.
just to keep surviving. And,
And that's not to say you should not negotiate. Yeah,
no,
that's not to
no,
say you should
no,
not negotiate. You should, get a good
negotiate from
price.
the
That's
start.
important. Yeah, negotiate from the start, and then negotiate for other things as well, whether it's packaging or whether it's delivery lead time or whether it's, additional things that you're getting. So you have to be smart about it, but at the same time, know where to draw the line. So coming back to Jeffrey's question, we talked about India, we talked about China. In fact, Daisy over here is saying, I personally find the Indian suppliers very respectful and would do their best to meet my requirements. The Chinese suppliers can get a bit arrogant or indifferent. Yeah, I agree with that. And Chinese suppliers are also very transactional. So they will, first, of course, until and unless you pay the deposit or advance, they're not going to even start your order. Whereas in India, there's a little bit more trust. Suppliers will, maybe place the order for raw materials even if you haven't sent a deposit, so they'll start the process. And then in Vietnam, it's sort of in the middle, but Vietnam is also very relationship based, Jeffrey. So I think a lot of these Asian countries are relationship based. So again, if you are placing a significant order, or if you want to, work with the factory long term, it's always best to go meet them in person. A lot of the big buyers do that. In fact, all big buyers would visit factories and make sure that they are developing relationships with the factories or their people on the ground at least. And what's also happening is that there are a lot of Chinese invested companies in Vietnam. So those types of companies are bringing in the culture, from China. And sometimes you can see that when you are talking to them. And we personally, we try to work with more Vietnamese locally owned companies because, of course, we want to make sure that, the locals are benefiting. But yeah, I mean, the fact is that there are a lot of Chinese invested companies, and that culture is sort of coming in, with those factories. So yeah, hope that answers your question. Okay, so let's quickly talk about our Vietnam sourcing trip that's coming up very, very soon. And we're seeing a lot of people interested in the shorter trip rather than the full 10-day trip because I think it's a lot more commitment in terms of time and money. So if you are really thinking about discovering Vietnam, if you're not sure if Vietnam is for you, or if you just want to get an idea of what types of products there are and just focus on sort of the business aspects, then this 5-day trip is really, really good for you. And it's very affordable, like just $2,000 for everything included. So I'll just quickly go through the itinerary and what's included, and then we'll take any questions that anybody might have. So the trip is called VST Core. So this is just basically the core of the trip. There are no, cultural aspects over here. It's just meat and potatoes, this business. So day one, April 22nd, we fly into Ho Chi Minh City. And this trip is only in Ho Chi Minh City. The full trip is across 3 cities, but this is only in Ho Chi Minh. So we fly in, you can come in the morning, afternoon, evening, at whatever time you want. We don't have any activities planned, but of course, whoever comes in, there's networking and you can, walk around the city and go explore the city as well. Day two, we do factory visits in Ho Chi Minh City during the day. And then we do information sessions and networking in the evening. Day three, we visit the trade show. So this is the Global Sourcing Fair, it's called. And there are about about, it's a very small fair. It's not very big. It's a new fair, so they're still building it up. And there will be about 350 to 500 exporters. But the good thing about this fair is that all the companies are export focused. There are a lot of other trade shows that are held in Vietnam, but they are domestic focused, and they are a mix of domestic and exports. But this is the only fair that really focuses on exports. And the product categories are very relevant to Amazon e-commerce sellers. So they're all home products, fashion, apparel. There's a lot of rattan, bamboo, those kinds of handmade products that a lot of Amazon sellers are having success with those kinds of products. Also because the MOQs are lower. And then on the 24th, we do this Saigon River dinner cruise, which is really beautiful. So we're floating down the river on this big, gigantic cruise ship, and they serve this beautiful dinner. And the views are just breathtaking from there. And then day four, April 25th, we do more factory visits in Ho Chi Minh City, and then we have dinner. And then day 5, you can either go back to the trade show because the trade show is still on, or you can, depart at any time of the day. But usually, what a lot of people are doing is that they're getting an evening flight so they can go back to the trade show, one last time. So that's the trip. It's very compact, very precise, very, um, you're just going there for business. You'll get a good understanding of what Vietnam has to offer. And then before the trip, we're going to be doing some sessions to go over Vietnam sourcing and the cultural sensitivities and what types of products to source and the difference between different types of suppliers and quality control and logistics. So all of the conference kind of content we're going to be sharing before the trip, and we're going to be doing it virtually. So you're still going to get all of that information, but it's just going to be before the trip instead of at the during the trip in person. So what's included? 5 days and 4 nights stay in a premium hotel in Ho Chi Minh City, the virtual conference to learn about Vietnam sourcing before the trip, visits to 4 to 5 pre-qualified factories. And if you have specific products in mind, you can let us know and we'll find factories for those products. And then if you don't want to go with the whole group, you can also go separately to factories that you're specifically interested in. Access to interpreters to traveling with the group, 1 day at an export focused trade show, 1 or 2 days, depending on your itinerary. Introductions to vetted service providers. So we've got quality control companies, freight forwarders, and sourcing. Of course, we do the sourcing ourselves. So you'll meet our team as well. We've now got a team of 2 people in Vietnam, like full-time people who are sourcing for us. So you'll be able to, talk to them, meet with them. In fact, we also have a booth at the Global Sourcing Fair. So this is the first time that we're setting up a booth there because we are promoting our sourcing services there. Information sessions with sourcing and ecom experts. So Ben Leonard is going to be our main ecom expert who's going to be joining us. And then we also have John Cavendish from Cellar Candy. He's actually based in Vietnam, so he'll be joining us as well. Then, of course, all meals are covered. We've got some alcoholic beverages on some evenings, transportation, visa, flight booking, trip preparation guidelines. All of this is done before the trip. We also do pre-trip live webinars to prepare you for the trip, and of course, also post-trip webinars after the trip. So this is standard for all of our sourcing trips, whether India or Vietnam. So if you're interested in signing up and getting more information, you can either go to this link or you can just go to the website vietnamsourcingtrip.com and get more information over there. Also, save the date for the October India trip. The next India trip is 14th to the 21st. This is the main trip. And then 21st to 23rd are additional factory tours. And super, super early bird prices are coming up in April. So this is going to be when we offer massive discounts on the trip. And now is a good time to actually book the trip and also book your flights. Your airfare is very cheap if you book it way in advance. And so if you are sure that you're coming on the trip, then this is a good time to buy your ticket. You'll get a discount on the ticket, plus you'll get good airfares. Plus, you're also going to be able to, start working with suppliers to make samples so that by the time you're there, you'll have ready samples and maybe even place orders, before you're there. So just take
And
note
the
of
other
this.
thing, if you've got factories in mind, you can go visit the factories while you're there too, Megla. It's very convenient.
Yeah, exactly.
If you were, wanting to meet people in, Panipat or, whatever those regions we spoke of before, and you're working on them, beforehand, well, you hit the ground running, so to speak.
Exactly. I wish I could make this trip, but have pre-planned a holiday. Oh, no worries, Facebook user. Next time. Okay. Who should I reach out to regarding MMK sourcing from Vietnam? Yes. So what you could do is send an email to us at info@indiasourcing.net. So we will, whether you want to source from India or Vietnam, we can take care of it from here. We can guide you. So info@indiasourcing.net. This is the email address. Great. So yeah, here's more information about the trip, vietnamsourcingtrip.com. And let us know if you now have any questions for us.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Good job.
It takes a bit of this. There's a time delay. So yeah, let's just be on for another 5 minutes or so
Great
and
job
see.
there, girl.
Yeah.
That's probably
So
a lot to digest between the difference in the two countries, but very similar though, aren't they? India, Vietnam,
Yeah, I think
similar in a lot of
yeah,
ways.
in many ways.
the biggest probably difference I think is this: I didn't find a lot of metal, like there's some beautiful metal products, home decor products in India.
Mm.
See a lot of those in
Vietnam.
Vietnam. In anywhere at the fair or any factories we visited had very little metal, whereas you don't get a lot of, well, you don't get hearth and grass and all the different types of grasses and rattans in India that you get in Vietnam. So I think that that's their specialty, and metal is probably, so if you're looking at either of those, I would choose the right country for those. But other than
Yeah.
that, I think you can get leather or you can get, other things in both countries, and it's not an issue so much like clothing and
But
things. But
the leather from both countries is so different, though, isn't it? Even if you go, to Kolkata for that sort of leather, and then you go to Kanpur for the industrial sort of leather, and there's somewhere else the different leather as well, isn't there? Sort of the different leather, because they're softer, they're more. I suppose different animals too, different animal skins that they use for the
Yeah.
leather too.
Also, in terms of woods, for example, both countries do wooden products, but whereas India focuses more on handcrafted items, and India does more mango wood and acacia wood, Vietnam factories would do more bamboo wood. I mean, there is acacia, of course, and there is more of the mass-produced, machine-made kind of products that are, made in Vietnam. For example, this toy factory that we visited, they had beautiful wooden products, and they had this really nice factory as well with a lot of machines and all that. Whereas in India, it would be like the home decor items that are done in India made out of wood. They are more handcrafted and artisans, and they have the more of the handmade kind of feel, where each piece is unique, and that's the story that you can tell in your brand as well. Whereas Vietnam wooden products are more mass produced, more similar to what you would find in China. There's more consistency across all products. There'll be less variations in terms of the color. But then for India, because the products are handmade and they're made from natural wood, you can see the grain, the wood grain in each piece, and each piece is different in terms of the wood grain and the color and the shade and everything. So I think that's one difference in the wooden products that are available in both countries.
yeah, so you get a good USP, I
Yeah.
think, from India, because you can, have, handmade in India and a photo of the village or somebody making your handmade products. I think that's probably more unique to Vietnam than to, Vietnam is more. It's halfway between China, I think, and India. They're in the middle, aren't
Yes,
they?
exactly.
Not as produced like China, but they're not handmade like India. So it's somewhere
Yeah.
in the middle. So it
Yeah,
depends really
physically
what
and metaphorically.
yeah.
Right. Also, rattan, seagrass, this is Vietnam's specialty. India also does these products, but we found that India does not have a lot of raw material variety for these kinds of items. And there are only certain regions in India that do these products, and it's mostly in the northeast. There are some factories that are coming up in the north as well, like in Moradabad. But again, they don't have a very wide range of raw materials available in terms of the seagrass and rattan. Whereas in Vietnam, there's more variety available, so you'll have more options, and the artisans are more skilled in this type of product. So basketry. What is it?
Weaving and types of things, yeah.
Basket weaving and all. Yeah, so they're more skilled in those types of making those types of baskets. And I mean, the factories that we visited, they were not only doing baskets, there were, of course, storage baskets and all of those things, but also furniture and lampshades and desktop accessories and toys, and just like a huge variety of products in these materials, and using this basket weaving, or using the weaving technique. And there are actually a lot of artisans and women artisans that work on these products. So again, you can have that story. In fact, Lynn Sundin, who's sourcing from Vietnam, she does, similar products. And she works with artisans. She's even been to their homes, to some of the women who work on her products. She's been to their homes and taken photos with them and their kids. And that's part of her brand story, that she's empowering women, and she's um, yeah, sourcing these beautiful handmade products that are helping uplift the lives of these women. So that's something that's very similar to India in terms of, the other products that India does. And Vietnam does the same thing for these rattan and basket kind of products. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, bags and backpacks, we talked about that, of course, but that's another industry that really stands out in Vietnam. India does a lot of bags and backpacks in natural materials. So you have canvas and cotton, leather, upcycled, recycled materials. So that story is there, alternative materials. Whereas Vietnam does more of the regular backpacks in, nylon and PU and all of those PVC polyesters. And a lot of the materials are imported from China, and there are huge factories that really specialize in, like, if you have a very complex backpack, or if you have like a baby carrier, for example, or any specialty kind of backpack, like a medical case, for example, you'll be able to do that really well in Vietnam. Are cashmere textiles or merino wool type high-end fabrics able to be sourced in India or Vietnam? Also, why are textile MOQs typically so high? Okay, great. What's your name, Facebook user? Why can't we see your name? So tell us who you are. But okay, so first of all, cashmere textiles, yes, available in India. In fact, that is India's specialty. Kashmir is also known as pashmina. I mean, there's a slight difference between the two, but it comes from a special variety of goat that lives up in the mountains, and it has very soft under fur or whatever. But so they are from the state of Kashmir in India, and that's why the name Kashmir. Oh, there's Jeffrey. What happened to you? Why did your name go away? Okay, no worries. Right. Vietnam does a lot of silk products. Vietnam does not do wool that much, but silk is available from Vietnam, and India does Kashmir. Okay, textile MOQs are high, mostly because it's the MOQ of the textile mill. It's not really the MOQ of the factory that is doing the cut and sew. So you've got to understand the process. Most of the factories that make apparel or any furnishing or textile based product, they are basically doing cut and sew. That is the process, right? So they are buying the fabric from somewhere, and they are just cutting it and they are stitching it in their factory. So for them, it doesn't matter if they are making, 5 or 500, but the MOQ is actually set by the textile mill, especially if you have customized prints or customized fabrics. Because think about it, I mean, mills are these gigantic factories that have gigantic machines to print fabrics, right? And so, are they going to turn this gigantic machine on just for 10 meters of fabric? It probably takes like, an hour to turn the thing on and set it up, and, uh, set it up for the specific design that you want. So it's not really cost effective for them to run that machine for 5 seconds to print 10 meters for you, right? So that's why the MOQs are high. It's not the apparel factories that are setting the MOQs. It's basically dependent on the fabric mills that are producing the product or producing the textile. So that's why if it is a customized product, the MOQs can be high. But if it is a fabric that you maybe generic fabric that is available in the wholesale market, then the MOQs can be lower. So there are wholesale markets where suppliers can buy fabric from. Secondly, what you can do, if the MOQ is high, then you can actually use the same fabric for different types of SKUs. So for example, let's say you're doing apparel, and you can maybe do like a women's dress and a kid's dress and a shirt and pants and shorts. So you can have different SKUs in the same type of fabric. That's what a lot of buyers do in order to make the most of the, MOQ. So you have the same print, but then you have different SKUs. What you can also do is, if it works for you, you can actually do block printing or some of the more handmade handloom kind of fabrics. Because for handloom fabrics, the MOQs are lower. And Jeffrey, I think you're coming with us in October, so you'll get a better idea of how everything works. And you will be visiting some block printing factories as well in Jaipur. So make sure you sign up for the Jaipur trip. But if you do block printing, then the MOQs are lower because again, it's a handmade process, so they don't have to turn on gigantic machines, for printing of the fabrics. So you'll actually see how the block printing process is done, and you'll be able to try it yourself. That's pretty cool. But again, so if you're doing furnishings or even apparel, you can try block printing. That has a lower MOQ. You can get more variety, more designs, and you can also try some of the other techniques like tie and dye, or there are a lot of different handmade fabrics or handcrafted fabrics that are available. Yeah, that map that Mark showed on the slides that we have, all of those materials are hand loom materials. You can also do silks if you want, silks, pashmina, all of these are hand loom. It will be pretty cool, Mark and Kevin, to go to Kashmir and actually see one of these
Would be nice.
pashmina shawls being
Yeah,
be made.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Pretty cool.
We're going to have to move to
After we
India
go
for
off,
5
of
years.
course.
This week
Yeah,
we want
send
to go to
Kevin.
Kerala, and we want to go down to Kerala, and we want to go up to Kashmir. It's a big country.
It's only a small trip to Kashmir, though, isn't it?
You want to
It
tell
is,
his
yeah. It's
boss
just
I'm going to be another week,
An
and
hour.
he's going to stay in the kennels.
Mark, leave Kevin here. You go back and take care of Bryson.
Hey?
We'll take care of Kevin.
Okay,
Okay, cool.
The dog
So-
will be easy to look after.
Yeah. So I've got a new family in Delhi now, mate.
Of course you do. All right. So does that answer your question,
You sending
Jeffrey?
me out to be sending me out on the road to discuss the new factories. I'll be busy.
Yeah, you're gonna do all of the
The road trips.
field work here, the
The
road
field
trips
work.
and the field work, and vetting all the factories.
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. All right, guys. So let's wrap it up here. Don't forget to look into the Vietnam trip. Reach out to us if you have any questions, info@indiasourcing.net, or you can just message either of us on Facebook Messenger. We're always available to answer any questions. Join us on the trip. It's going to be a very eye-opening experience, and you're going to discover some very cool products, and who knows where that would lead to. I noticed that you have not mentioned crystal or scented candles at all. That's a really good point, Daisy. So, yeah, I mean, crystals definitely are an option
Does she
from
mean
India,
crystals?
and
Crystals.
crystal. Oh, what? Yeah, exactly. What do you mean? Do you mean crystal like?
Is that what she means, or does she mean crystals in
Do you mean
necklaces?
like? Yeah. Can you specify what you mean by crystal? And scented candles? Yes, candles is a category from India as well, and it's not a very major category as such. I mean, of course, there are suppliers. We try to focus on the key categories, but you're right, candles is a major category.
Oh, crystal candles.
From
Crystal
Vietnam.
candles from Vietnam.
She
Okay.
mean crystal
Yeah,
candle
again,
holders.
there are. Do you mean candle holders? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of other products that we may not have covered, Daisy, and we tried to focus on the key product categories. But yeah, candles. There's different food items that are definitely available.
I don't think we've had anybody even ask for crystal candles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about woven material like woven hammock, the macrame? Yes, Becky, definitely. So that can be done in India. Yeah, macrame can be done in India very easily. In fact, we are currently doing an order for a hammock, and we have already done a couple of orders for
And I
like
think one
these toy hammocks.
like a seat, regular.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
we showed, yeah, in one of the
yeah.
slides. There was a
Yeah.
seat, yeah.
I think anything's possible with macrame as long as it's the thickness of the actual rope, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Becky's saying, okay, how does the pricing compare to China? Very competitive, Becky. Like we have sourced macrame products. In fact, it could be also, lower in India because it's a labor intensive product. And, anything labor intensive is generally cheaper in India. But yeah, I mean, the orders that we have done for our clients for macrame, they were very happy with the pricing.
And just something you
So
should
I
be
haven't
aware
really
of
compared with China. Go
is
ahead.
though the duty. So you need to know the HS code of the product, because if you're getting that product from China, you may be paying 25, 30% Trump tax on that. If it comes from India or Vietnam, you're paying none of that. So a lot of times people can be saving 30% and more on the product on the duty. So if you're getting a $10 product, it's going to be $13 when you pick it up off the port in US. Whereas if you get it from India, it'll still be $10. There won't be that extra $3. So a lot of people don't think about that, but it's always, you need to know what your tariff would be. And I've heard people have told me they're paying 40% margin on things, and that was on just like a dog bed, a fluffy dog bed. And their import tax from China, they were quoted 40%. So if you did that from India or Vietnam, you wouldn't have that 40%. So if you're looking at a $20 product, it's going to cost you $30 to get it into the US. So I think that's something very important to remember on every product, metal, wood, whatever it is. There's no tariffs or limited to four.
You can check that though, can't you? You can
check. Yeah, you need, but
Yeah.
I would be asking my customs broker, because they're the ones that will be putting the codes on, and it is very difficult to get, like, there's 110 breakups of the codes. Like, and I know now that we use a particular code on some products, because if it's used, say, as a glass, it might be 20%, but if it's used as a jug, it might be 40%. So you've just got to be careful of the code itself can have different tariffs. So you've got to find the cheapest one if you're going into from China.
Right. So the candles have crystals in them for chakra meditation. Yes, I know what you're talking about, Daisy. I think I've seen those maybe at the fair or somewhere. So these are mostly from India and also Vietnam, Margaret. I think we've seen these. So these are like the crystals are sort of embedded in the candles, and they are mostly soy wax candles. Yeah, we were looking at those. Yeah. So Daisy, have you found a supplier for those types of products, or are you looking for those kinds of products? I mean, let us know, reach out to us if you are looking for those types of products. But yeah, I remember seeing something like this in Vietnam and India. I haven't seen like the crystals in the candles, but I don't know why they couldn't do it, because it's just, I mean, there are crystals available in India and there are candles. It's just a matter of putting them together.
There's a question about
okay, Becky says, yeah, let's just do this one. I'm struggling with my current manufacturer in China because the complaint is there is a musty smell. So I think, yeah, for the musty smell, you just need to make sure that the supplier is putting in, like a dehumidifying, what is it called? I'm missing the word. Yes, destined.
Yeah. Sash.
The sachet, yeah. So just make sure that the supplier is putting that in, and of course the product is dry. In India, what we generally do is we don't use plastic for these kinds of products that are made from natural materials, like even wood. Don't use any plastic. So make sure that the packaging is paper, so that paper also absorbs moisture. And if it is plastic, then it can trap moisture. So that's something else that you can do. And yeah, I mean, make sure that you do a pre-shipment inspection and get the inspector to actually smell the product. But sometimes what also happens is the musty smell comes during transportation. It's not when it's at the factory, but during transportation, then that's when it develops. Maybe it was in a moist location, or maybe the container was moist or something, or I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, just make sure that they package it really well.
I would ask my inspection agency to make safeguard that there'd be no smell. So whatever they need to do with those sachets or wherever they need to do, you could do it to make sure that doesn't happen en route to where you're going.
Yeah. So Becky, I mean, you can reach out to us if you'd like, and we can try to do some samples for you as well. Okay, so Daisy is looking for a supplier in Vietnam. Okay, cool. Yes. So let us know if you need any help, Daisy, with these suppliers, and we can ask our team to find out. And I know that you're also thinking of coming to Vietnam, so we still have to talk about that, Daisy. I will, reply to your message, and we can probably even get on a call. All right, so Becky, so can I email you to get more details? Yes, definitely, Becky. So info@indiasourcing.net. You can email us here, and we will get back to you. Okay, Mark, there was one question about ceramics, right? Yeah. Margaret mentioned that ceramic dishes made in Vietnam are popular in Japan. Please elaborate. Are MOQs high? So for customized products, yes, the MOQs may be high, but not very high. I mean, when we talked to the supplier, I don't think they were asking for like containers as such. But yeah, if you do want to make something specific and you have, like a mold needs to be developed, then yes, the MOQs would be high. But I mean, in general, Vietnamese suppliers prefer high MOQs. And like until 2 years ago, they would not talk to you unless you were placing like one container because they had so much business. But nowadays, we're finding Vietnamese suppliers to be more flexible. They are doing MOVs as well. They are also doing less than container loads. So all of this can be negotiated. And again, it really depends on what you're looking for. So if you want to maybe reach out to us, tell us your requirements, and we can, talk to companies and actually find out their MOQs.
Yeah, and I mean the dishes I was talking about are really what you would see served up in a Japanese restaurant. The beautiful, almost lacquer-coloured looking china with beautiful edging. They were just stunning. I can still see all the settings they had with the bowls and the plates, and they were just gorgeous. But if you use their custom designs that they already make, I'm sure it's not going to be such a high MOQ because you're not asking. They're going to be producing those, and obviously for other people as well. And do you remember those, Megla, those beautiful Japanese looking sets in that?
Yeah, yeah. In that
Or,
factory, yes. The
they
sake sets, the sake cups, and
the plates, and
yeah,
they were
plates.
gorgeous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely beautiful, stunning colours, and
Yeah. And we also did a webinar with Gary Huang recently where we talked about buying from Vietnam and selling to Japan. And can anybody guess what the price of a container is from Vietnam to Japan? So, shipping of a container from Vietnam to Japan.
I
Come
know,
on, let's see.
I know.
No, not you, Kevin.
Oh,
Come on, guys. Any guesses, wild guesses? And we're going to give people time for this because this is going to be very interesting. So,
and
what
this
is the cost
includes
of a container?
all
This
the
is
costs, the
all
paperwork
the
and each and
costs. Okay.
everything. Yeah, that's landed.
Yeah. Yeah. Landed costs from Vietnam to Japan. A full container, 20 foot or 40 foot? Was it 20
It's
or 40,
20
Mark?
foot, 20 foot.
Okay. 20-foot container from Vietnam to Japan, including your customs and clearance. Not customs, but yeah, clearance and everything.
I bet you no one gets this right.
Let's see.
Someone who was watching the MMK show with Gary will, but yeah.
No, we didn't mention it there actually.
We didn't have it because we
We
didn't have
didn't.
that.
No, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, we,
right.
we didn't have the price at that time.
Yeah.
Come on,
So,
guys.
come on,
Let's
yeah,
see.
come on, guys.
Nobody.
Join the
Venture
fun.
a guess. Jeffrey, are you there? Daisy, Becky, throw a number out there. Daisy's being very politically correct. She's like, very cheap.
Oh dear.
That's a good one, Daisy. Come on, one more. Who else?
Someone will come with very
Well,
expensive.
put it this way. I posted it to Megla when I got the price, and she came back and she said, for a 20-foot container. Couldn't believe it. I could not. I actually went back and said,
Jeffrey has no idea.
Whole container. $4,000.
Oh my God, Alan is $4,000. Mark, go on, tell them. Come on.
$350 to $400 for a whole container, 20-foot container.
For a whole container, guys.
Well, I'll read you it out. It says Ho Chi Minh to Tokyo freight, including destination charges, is approximately $350 to $400 for a 20-foot container. There you go, guys. It made those really nice China dishes from Vietnam to go to Vietnam look really cheap because, I mean, you could save a fortune on shipping to start with.
Exactly. So, Alan, just cross 10 from there.
Yeah. We'll revisit
And on that, if people want to go back and have a look at that, the webinar that we actually did with Gary, there's a lot of opportunities in the Japan marketplace because we investigated a lot of different products, didn't we? We had a bit of fun
Yeah.
going through the different niches and stuff.
Yeah. So Mark,
But
are we
you,
going to visit the ceramic factory? You're working on the factories, right?
That's up in Hanoi. So on the trip that we're showing for $2,000, no, it's up the other end of Vietnam. It's at the very start of our longer trip.
so unless
That's-
you,
Yeah.
yeah, but look, if
But
you're
then, are there ceramic factories in Ho Chi Minh City? Right,
no, not,
there should be.
not a
Not really.
lot.
Okay, most of
Most
them
of
are
ceramic
there, right? Okay.
no,
But there are suppliers at the trade show.
yeah, but yeah, there are suppliers there, and if you can't find one or anything else, come back to us, and we may be able to put you in contact if you're really serious. We could put you in contact with this factory, but you really need to see it because they're very secretive. We weren't allowed to take photos. That's why I don't have a lot of photos of the products because they wouldn't allow us to take any photos when we were there. Because it was a shame because they were beautiful.
Yeah. Price difference goes towards inventory. Yes,
Absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
Or in your pocket, in your bottom line pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Japan is surprisingly a big market. Like, I did not expect Japan to be this big, but it's pretty
Fourth
impressive, and
biggest
especially Amazon.
yeah.
Yeah, fourth biggest
yeah.
market. And so that's something to consider. And of course, Gary has his trip coming up. Sorry, his conference coming up in just a couple of weeks. Actually, it's before our Vietnam.
Is Master? Oh, that's right. He's doing
His
something.
conference, yeah.
Yeah,
Conference. That's right. Yeah.
next week, the week after.
No, early April. I think it's sometime in early April, and
So
it's in
Guess
Okinawa.
what? The 20th of March.
Yeah, right.
Far away.
Okay. Yeah, maybe in 2 weeks from now.
What do they call it? The do you know the blossom? What do they call the trees?
Cherry
The blossom.
blossom. Cherry blossom.
Cherry blossom.
Cherry blossom. Cherry blossom.
It's in the cherry blossom season. He's doing it, isn't he?
Yeah, 8th to the 10th of April. Yeah,
Oh,
those are
right.
his dates. Yeah,
No, so
8th
it's time to
the
get on
10th of
that.
April.
There you go. Free plug for you, Gary.
Yeah, so there's still time to do that. Anyone who's interested, you can go to Gary's and find out how to sell it on Japan, and you can come to Vietnam and find the product. There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly, and then ship it for $400, like a full container. I mean, so LCL would be like just LCL. I don't know. Do they even do LCL then? Yeah, I guess they do. But what would it be like $200 or something?
So gobsmacked. I mean, I'd just say I'll take the whole container, $400.
I know.
It was a good presentation.
It's a good presentation.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
good.
thanks, Daisy.
Thank you, Daisy.
All right, so we're finally going to wrap it up. It's going to be almost 2 hours now. We've gone way over time. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking around with us for so long. Daisy, Jeffrey, Becky, all of you guys are still here, and all of the other 20 people that are still watching. So thank you so much for sticking around. And we look forward to seeing you in Vietnam next
In Ho
month.
Chi Minh City.
In
Or-
Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, thank
absolutely.
you.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.